Thanks, Concola. And we too will be supporting the Sinn Féin motion. It's really a bit mad, and the play on language and abuse of language in making arguments around this issue is a bit disheartening. We know that there's no concrete and clear commitment to neutrality in the Constitution, and this has been taken advantage of by too many for too long. And clearly, our facilitation of American-US military use of Shannon in 2003 for the Iraq War was criminal by any standards, and made a complete mockery of any notion that we were neutral. The then Taoiseach, Bertie Ahern, argued that facilitating the use of Shannon for the then illegal invasion of Iraq was not of sufficient degree of substance to constitute participation in the war. Now, according to customary international law, namely the Hague Convention on respecting the rights and duties of neutral powers and persons in case of war or land of 1907, it says a power that claims to be neutral is forbidden to allow belligerents to move troops to convoys of either munitions of war or supplies across the territory of a neutral power. But that's not what happened. And in March 2003, when the motion was going through this House, it was unreal, the way it was put. It said that Dáil Éireann declares its commitment to the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of Iraq. Well, myself and Deputy Daly were in Iraq last year, and you know what? That's not the impression you get. It's not really what happened, because the place is destroyed. And you can't invade and destroy a country and at the same time respect its sovereignty and independence. That's not the way it works. And the same motion welcomed the arrangements put in place by the government to ensure that Ireland would be able to contribute rapidly to the humanitarian effort in Iraq. The motion further stated that Dáil Éireann recalls the long-standing arrangements for the overflight and landing in Ireland of US military and civilian aircraft. But it did not indicate that up to 1999, any US troops who passed through Shannon were either going on a holiday or were travelling to air bases in Germany. They were not going to war. 2001 and Afghanistan was a game changer. And there's no people that pretend otherwise are being economical with the truth. Now, if you check the records, in 2003, Enda Kenny questioned the use of Shannon for US military purposes. Before we came in here in 2011, I heard some Labour members question the US military use of Shannon for military purposes. Isn't it amazing what you say in opposition and then what you say in government? It's amazing. Now, the truth is that, very sadly, we have been linked to terrible atrocities since 2001. When the Taoiseach was in here, he was defensive of the EU's peaceful role. And you know what? The EU hasn't been as military aggressive and warmongering as the US has been. But you know what also? I have found the EU to be pretty disappointing for the last while. I disagree with their support of many of the European countries for the war in Afghanistan. I disagree with their support for the war in Iraq. I disagree with their involvement in the bombing and destruction of Libya. I disagree with their support for arming the jihadists in Syria, which they did. I disagree with their lack of constructive opposition and real opposition to what Israel is doing to Palestine and has been doing for a long time. I disagree with the EU's silence on what is happening in Yemen today. The last official figure we were given was there was 13 million people at risk of poverty in Yemen. 13 million people. The US has supported the Saudi-UAE coalition in bombing the living daylights out of Yemen for a long time now. It started in March 2015. There's only one crowd bombing in there. There isn't an opposition bombing there. Only one crowd has ever dropped a bomb from the air, and it's the Saudi-UAE coalition, armed and supported by the US, the UK and France. Now, how bad is that? How bad does it have to get in Yemen before anyone screams stop? There was a school of girls, young girls, bombed on Sunday. Bombed in Yemen, in Sana'a. There's horrific pictures of the kids scrambling to get out of the place, losing clothes and books as they went. Does it make any impression on the powers of Europe? Are they going to ever dissociate themselves from the US warmongering? The arms industry has become one of the biggest industries on the planet. And in fairness to Donald Trump and his honesty, when it was put to him a couple of months ago, Mr. President, a journalist put to him, do you think that maybe it's time that we stopped arming the Saudis because what's happening in Yemen is not very good? And Trump's answer was, let me see now. He says there's over 20,000 jobs at least created by the arms that we're selling to the Saudis. Supposing we stop selling to them, we lose those jobs. What about that? And another thing he says, what about all the money we get for the arms that we sell them? What do? Stop? And we let the Russians or the Chinese sell them to them instead? Don't think so, he says. I admire his honesty because that's the truth. And Obama, who actually in 2011 sat down with the Saudis, organised regime change in Yemen throughout Saleh and Brahim Hadi, and then sanctioned the war which started in March 15, wouldn't have spoken with such honesty, because you know what? What Obama used to do isn't very much different from what Trump does now, only he done it with, he looked well, he sounded intelligent, he was articulate, but you know what? He was a lying so-and-so.